And we're live. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this very special and power episode of Inspire TV, the small business channel powered by Inspire CA. Remember, we're the guys who help young families use their small business to achieve big goals. Now, the topic of today's session is very practical and very hands-on, and that's why we've got no slides, but we're going straight into live diagrams and conversation with the founder of Inspire CA, and who is also a chartered accountant and a specialist in the business structuring space, Ben Walker, who you can see in the webcam there. The reason why we put today's webinar on is that we've had so many email and Facebook inquiries over the last week with some uncertainty from small business owners as to whether they are indeed in the right structure. They don't quite fully understand why, if they do have a structure in place, why there might be in that current structure. So Ben, I'm going to hand over to you, and could you talk us through the basics of business structuring? And at the end of this webinar, I'm going to put together our poll, and let's get a vibe as to where everybody is at structures-wise, and there'll be a small offer for those who want some help from Inspire to have a review of their business structure. So Ben Walker, over to you, my friend.
Brilliant. Thanks, Harvey, and thanks everyone who's joining us this morning and giving up their coffee break. So as Harvey said, we're going to be straight into it and talking about business structures. Now, what I often see is people start in business and they get the most common, or they go and set up a company, or they trade in a sole trader, or they just don't really know exactly why they've chosen their business structure. Now, I believe business structures are super important for two main reasons. The first is asset protection, so keeping your business assets separate from your business risks, and separate from your personal family assets, and that's super important because you don't want a disgruntled employee or a client or supplier coming after the family house, so to speak. And the other key is tax planning. So your business structure gives you some amazing opportunities for saving tax in a really cool way.
Please show us the way.
Yeah. Do you mind if I tell a bit of a story of how we've helped someone just a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, please. I want to hear the Moana story.
Awesome, the Moana story. So Moana was trading as a sole trader. She is one of our, and I've got some pictures down here. Make sure I get the right one. There's Mum.
Yeah, she's a mum.
But Moana, she's very talented. She was she is a bookkeeper, and also she's just purchased a cleaning company. Now, she knows she did the naughty thing, and she actually bought the business before she talked to us. But it was in time that we were able to, let the lawyers know that the business structure had changed, or it wasn't what she signed it in. Mm-hmm. So we had an opportunity to change that business structure. Now, Moana's husband's Jason, and she's got two sons and a daughter. Now, all three of her children actually work in some part in this new cleaning business. That's the real.
And Ben, just as you put those images on there, I'll give you some background story on it, is that Moana actually bought the cleaning business not because of her joy of making things nice and tidy, but because she had a strong desire to create opportunities both for her family, and that's why her husband and the children work in the business, but she's also got a really strong focus and value on giving opportunities to some of the what she calls forgotten ones within the community. So it's a beautiful intention with why she started this business, and it's why we've got such a great alignment with her. She just rocks. So there's a bit of the background.
Awesome. And for those who are having a coffee, I'm also sharing one with you. Alrighty, so this is Moana's family. We've got Moana, Jason, and the three kids. They've got a house as well, and I guess the main two options for a business structure is a company, which you might have seen as Pty Ltd.
Yep.
Or as a trust, and here we go, TRUST. So two different structures, and they have pros and cons of each. Now, in terms of getting money out of a company, there's a couple of key ways you can do that. You can pay a salary to each employee over here. Whoop. And that's how you can get money over to the asset side. You can also pay a dividend. So to pay a dividend, the company's got to make a profit, pay 30 cents in the dollar of tax, and then the next financial year, it can then issue a franked dividend to the shareholders. Now, the problem with that is that time. So you've got like 12 to 18 months before you can actually issue that dividend. And so you're down to the third option of taking money out of the company. You're actually taking a loan out. Now, that's okay, but there's definitely rules around taking money out in the form of a loan from a company, but it's not a long-term strategy. When you compare that to a trust, any money you take out of a trust, that's, in general, there's no rules associated with that, like there is with a company, and trusts actually do something called distribute. So you might have heard of a family trust or a discretionary trust, but basically that sort of trust gives you the choice of who pays the tax, who the income goes to, and that sort of thing. And so with Moana's story, she was able to distribute money to herself, to Jason, to the 3 kids, and that's straight from this trust over here. Yeah. Whoop. For instance, her 3 children are each over 18, and you may be aware of roughly about the first $18,000 to $20,000 worth of taxable income to an adult is actually tax-free because of the tax-free threshold. And so, even just counting the 3 children, that's $60,000 worth of taxable income, so long as they're not working. That this trust can generate and distribute to the 3 children, and there's $0 in tax payment. Throughout the year, they could be working for the cleaning company, they could be studying at uni, something like that. But it's a really powerful way that this trust can earn, a significant amount of money and spread it over the different family members. And that's really the essence of what a family trust, also called a discretionary trust, is.
Yeah, understood. And so as the family grows and as the business grows, is there a need to look into other structures, Ben, or would that satisfy them for the next few years?
Yeah, and this is very dependent on each family group's circumstances. But for instance, you may want to have, it's important to keep your business risks separate from each other. So just like we've got a wall between the risk and the assets here, we actually want a wall between each business. So say Moana decided to buy an accounting firm, the separate business would be in a separate trust.
Awesome. And I know on behalf, not necessarily Moana herself, but on behalf of a lot of the young families who are in business that we are working with, typically along their goals, or one of the big goals that they'd like to achieve is to invest in say property at a future point. How would that potentially fit in, or how could we use some of these structures that are in place to help add to that protection?
Yeah, okay. And as you were talking there, Harvey, I just added this investment trust on the right-hand side. Now, again, keeping with our golden rule of risks separate from assets, if the family wanted to buy an investment property, and I'll add another property here, and sit that over here in the investment trust, that's perfectly fine as well. And the unique thing about the business trust or this one over here is that it can also distribute income over to this investment trust to soak up any negative gearing that this property has built up. So that's another unique way. So this investment trust is for purely, as it says, investment. So shares, property, anything that's passive. So a business is sort of like an active asset. But property and that sort of investment is purely passive. There's not much associated risk with that sort of investment, and that's why we can keep it in the same basket.
Yeah, understood. And what about, I did a bit of a review of our client base, and I noticed that quite a lot of our clients are in the information or intellectual property game. So they are perhaps lawyers, for example, who the product that they deliver or offer is actually IP related. If someone who's attending today is in that game, is there other ways that we may be able to help protect some other assets in the intellectual property space?
Yeah. No, great point, Harvey. And that's what I'm drawing up here is like our IP company, and that's what some people use to keep their intellectual property separate from their business trust. And the purpose of that is that if anything happened to this business trust, then the IP, which usually is fairly valuable, doesn't come into that business risk. And what happens is each year a license fee is paid back to this IP company, and that in turn is owned ideally by this investment trust.
It's pretty cool. What I'm loving is that I know this looks complicated, and that's why I do, because I'm not an accountant, but also many of our clients do, trusting you to be able to understand what our goals are, and you can help have the best structures in place. I've heard of scenarios where I know in tax planning this year, we're able to set up separate companies for our high income earners or for our high profitability clients. What was the rationale behind those types of strategies?
Yeah, okay. Alrighty. And in terms of, so when, I guess the tax rates of individuals step up as an individual earns more money. Now, if there's been a great win throughout the year, so there's been plenty of profit built up on this in the family group, and there's just excess profit and cash that the family actually doesn't need. It can actually, sorry?
Great problem to have.
Yep, that's it. The trust can actually distribute to, so this, I'll just whack this as a license fee, a license charge, and this one as a distribution. Now, the excess that the individuals don't need in terms of income and taxable income from the trust can actually be distributed to it's got a couple of names, a bucket company, a corporate beneficiary, but big words basically to mean a company that receives income from the trust. And the reason for that is a company pays tax at 30 cents in the dollar on its first dollar of profit or its 10 millionth dollar of profit. So it's not like an individual where the more they earn, the higher the taxable percentage is. It's just a flat rate of 30 cents in the dollar. And that tool there is a sensational tax planning tool in itself.
Yeah, that's great. And so we'll cover tax planning more in detail closer to the time. What time of year are tax planning conversations typically had with our clients, Ben?
Yeah, so when we're working with a prospective client, I actually often say every business client must get tax planning, otherwise there's another accountant for you. So tax planning is where we say to our clients, 2, 3, 4, 10 times our own accounting fees, and that's where I get a lot of fulfillment out of what I do.
Yeah.
And that's usually delivered between April and June of each financial year.
Awesome.
Now that's assuming you're in the structure that's most appropriate for you. So a lot of the times with structures, you can't actually go back and say, hey, I was a trust 6 months ago. You can't do that. You need to make sure you set up day one or as soon as you can, ensuring you're in the right structure.
Yeah, understood. And I think you may have mentioned this with regards to Moana. But if I am a young family, and if I was, say, a Moana who was considering buying a business or starting up a new one, using this structure or this diagram, what's the difference between, or at what point should I consider investing in having the appropriate structures in place, and how long can I get away with just being an ABN or sole trader?
Yeah, great question. So Moana did actually initially purchase or start the purchasing process in her sole trader ABN, and now that's how on the figures she gave us, we saved her 36K in tax. Like, that is sensational amounts.
Yeah.
Imagine the impact that can have on their family of five. Like, that is awesome.
Well, just on
So
that, I know that the next day she booked a long-term dream of hers, which was a holiday for her birthday next year in 2016 to South America. So that's real goals that you were able to help achieve. So that's cool.
Awesome. and so the answer to your question is, before you're going to purchase a business or before you start one, have a chat with us. And you know, my opinion is, day one, you want the structure that'll set you up. If you're serious about your business, that's going to carry you through your first year or your 10th year. So something that's, you're setting it up for the future. So this sort of structure, like a business trust or with a company as its trustee, there's not too many situations where that would need to change. But what you do want to do as you go along is add these other entities as the condition, as your needs require.
Now, I've got one final question. This is a personal one, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer this in this session. But before we do that, if anyone does want to have a bit of a second opinion or a bit of a business structure review session with you, what's involved in that, Ben, and how might they take action on that next step?
Yeah, great question. What that looks like is a business structuring session. So this is a passion of mine. It might look a little bit boring or complex or whatever, but I love it. I love delivering those results like Moana, and enabling that holiday to South America. And that looks like a 60 to 90-minute session with me, and we go through your personal assets, what business or businesses you've got at the moment, and how each different type of structure might benefit you. At the end of that, we give you formalised advice and then an action plan to take that forward.
Awesome.
Yeah. So for anyone who wants. Sorry?
So if someone's interested in that, how might they get that ball rolling with you?
Yeah. So if you're interested in that, then just send an email to hello@inspireca.com and with a subject line, I need a business structuring session, and then we'll get in touch with you.
Cool. And is there a cost associated with that structuring session?
Yep, there sure is. So that's $500 plus GST for that structuring session, and there is a guarantee on that. If you don't learn anything, if you don't get value out of it, if you think it's a waste of your time, I'll give you that money back as well.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that's good. Good to know, bro. So the final question I have is, that we've had a few of our own team members ask questions of late about the potential of buying in or having equity in Inspire. Now, for me, that's been heartwarming to see that, our team members believe in where we're going, so much so that they'd want to really participate in that growth. And as a business owner, I'd love to facilitate that. Without getting too detailed, what role does business structuring play in facilitating something like business succession and planning for the future?
Great question, and that's why it's so important to have a structure that's set up and fluid enough to cope with things like that, like an employee share trust. And I might just whack that in here, where your employees can actually own a percentage of your business.
Cool.
And that's a really unique remuneration strategy. So that's another way that you can share that. But again, it's important to have this stuff right from the start, and not to have the employee share trust set up, but to have it so that you don't have to restructure your whole business to enable that to happen.
Yeah, understood. And just finally, would you like to, if there is one, share any sort of massive wins you ever had in terms of someone who's followed your advice and how it has protected them? Or do you know any stories about how they haven't followed your advice and they've come back and things have come to bite them in the behind years later? Or have you heard any sort of horror stories or success stories like that?
It's a bit of a mixed bag, really. Like, I mean, I can have these conversations with business clients who purely trust their existing accountants, and unfortunately, it's just I believe it's the state of the industry. It's not the not the business client's fault because they're putting their trust in an advisor, but they're just not getting the right advice in this stuff. And now that I've seen that's cost people tens of thousands of dollars. And one client, for instance, the year before he met us, we could have saved him 15 grand. The year he did come to us with a bit of structuring like we're talking about now, we actually saved him $45,000. He wasn't too pleased at his existing accountant.
Yeah, understood. So again, it's really important to reach out to us, hello@inspireca.com, and whether that's for specifically a business structuring session as per the topic of today's. Otherwise, if you're just wanting to get a bit of a second opinion on how an accounting firm like Inspire might help, or some confirmation that you're actually on the right track with who you've got, then again, hello@inspireca.com is where you want to go for that. Awesome. Well, thanks very much for your time today, Ben. That was fantastic to kill a few birds with one stone, given that so many people have asked us these similar questions. And yeah, we look forward to helping you guys soon and seeing those emails coming through on hello@inspireca.com. Have a great rest of your Friday, everybody. See you later, Ben, too.
Thanks, Harvey. Cheers.
See ya.